Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Guys YouTube channel where the Force is family. I am Master Paul.
And I am Mando on Fire. And today
And
we've got a special treat for you.
yes, we do. As many of you know and have likely seen already, the Book of Boba Fett trailer dropped. In fact, it dropped on my birthday, so thank you, Disney, for that birthday present. But we are finally going to be taking a look at it and sort of giving our thoughts on what they're showing. So let's go ahead and bring it into the screen here and see what we got.
And to be clear, this is a reaction and we'll also break down what we're going to see.
Yes.
I am not a bounty hunter. I've heard otherwise. I know that you sit on the throne of your former employer.
Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
You were all once captains under Jabba the Hutt.
I'm here to make a proposal that's mutually beneficial. Why speak of conflict when cooperation can make us all rich?
What prevents us all from killing you and taking what we want?
If you had spoken such insolence to Jabba, he'd have fed you to his menagerie.
Please. Speak freely.
All right, and that is the trailer right there. Pause that for a second and take it off the screen. So right off the bat, I really like the direction that it seems like they're going here. Now, one thing I want to point out, plot-wise, they didn't show us anything, and that is a good thing. They want to keep us guessing, I think, with what they're showing. But based off what they've shown, what I'm guessing is they're doing sort of like a Star Wars Mafia type show where Boba Fett is now the head of this crime syndicate, and he said so himself in this trailer that he's going to be running it very differently than Jabba did. Jabba ruled with fear. He wants to run with respect.
Yeah, and I think another thing to point out is that even though at this time it's a little bit unclear if the Hutt Syndicate is still around after Jabba had passed on, but I do think that based on what we know with Boba Fett taking over the throne that was Jabba's, we might see almost kind of like a gang war, for lack of a better term.
Right. And I think we even see like a clip of that in this trailer, and we'll get to that in a minute. But we're going to go back through this trailer now bit by bit and sort of break down what we see. Now, one thing I want to cover right off the bat is this spider thing. I had a coworker of mine ask me what this was. And if I remember correctly, this is actually what is called a Bomar monk. Look that up. I believe it's spelled B''OMARR monk. And they are originally the original inhabitants of what would become Jabba's palace, and they sort of just keep to themselves and let Jabba have it for whatever he wants. And really all they are is just a brain inside that little red circle there that's basically like a big fish tank, and it controls its spider body. But I could be wrong about that in this case. Who knows?
And I think another thing to point out is that we've actually seen one of these before in episode 6, so it's almost kind of like a little Easter egg from the movies.
Right. Another thing I want to bring up is look at Boba's face himself, and you notice anything different about it compared to when we saw him last in Mando.
Well, it definitely looks like his burns have healed
Mm-hmm.
and his eyebrows are back as well.
Yes. He doesn't have any of that scarring that he had anymore from the Sarlacc pit. So I'm guessing he spent quite a lot of time after the events of Mando in a Bacta tank,
Mhm.
to help heal all that up, because Luke had to do the same thing after his encounter with the Wampa on Hoth that scarred up his
Mhm.
face really badly.
Yeah,
So I think he looks amazing. Heck, give him hair. He looks the same, almost the same as what he did in Attack of the Clones. Wouldn't you say?
exactly. Yeah, I guess that's a really good reason why they decided to bring Tamira Morrison back into Star Wars universe, just because he was the first clone old actor. Like he was the clones, and then of course D. Bradley Baker, all respect to him, pretty much did his own version of said clones as well.
Yes. And also to note his armor. When we first saw him with his armor in in chapter 15 of Mando, the one where they break Migs Mayfield out, his armor was completely repainted from having gotten so messed up from the Sarlacc pit, but now it looks like he's been in some scraps, because you can see the little bit of scarring that he has now on his helmet and on his chest plate, and I think you can even see it a little bit on his left shoulder, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it definitely looks like that there is some scarring, which indicates that he's been busy, and I mean extremely busy, considering how, for lack of a better term, Jabba's palace is under new management.
Yes. In fact, I think this is the clip where he says it.
Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
I don't think pre-Sarlacc Boba would have said that, because if you look into basically how Boba Fett operated in, pre Sarlacc pit, he was a monster. Like
Yeah,
you remember on his old set of armor, those random braids that came down on his shoulder like that.
I know
Apparent,
exactly where this is headed.
yeah, apparently those are Wookiee scalps. And
Yeah.
of course, it's symbolic of the fact that he does not wear those anymore,
Hmm.
because he's not about just pure savagery anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't quite say he's gained a conscience, but in his older age, he's like, you know what? Perhaps just being a ruthless monster isn't a good way to live my life. Maybe I want to actually think things through and operate a
Hmm.
little bit more logically. But this
And I
episode,
want
again, could prove me wrong.
and I want to say another thing to point out is that he was ultimately Vader's personal bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And
And
in fact, in the comics run of Vader, it was Boba Fett who originally encountered Luke and found out that Luke was the last name of Skywalker. Therefore, Vader was able to connect the dots and say, "Yeah, I have a kid."
right. Now, another thing to break down. So here is, of course, the big meeting that he's having with all um Jabba's former captains. Of course, you have the Trandoshans there. I don't know who that guy is down there on the far right. I'm sure they'll explain that.
Hmm.
Let's see. These are so I didn't catch this at first, but these are obviously sand people, so it'll be interesting to see how they play in.
Hmm.
Let's see. Of course, we got a pretty cool shot of Slave One right there.
Hmm.
I hope we see more seismic charges. There's a shot of his helmet rolling down, coins inside of it, so I wonder what that's about.
Yeah. Well, we do know one thing, just based off of the little red colors there, that it's kind of what's happening during that scene where you had mentioned that we pretty much saw what's basically a gang war right
Mm-hmm.
here. And even though that Boba Fett it is pretty much a galaxy-renowned bounty hunter, right? Still, the odds of him against other bounty hunters are going to be a little bit more challenging.
Right. But even still, with all of that, we see him because of course here they are, Finnick and Boba surrounded by these guys,
Hmm.
and of course Boba himself, he's amped up, he's ready to go. But just like we did in chapter 14, there he is. Let me see if I can. Here, we'll play it. He's a good shot, but put a melee weapon in his hands, that's when you really see just how
Yeah,
strong he is,
yeah,
or how
and I'm sure
bad
we won't.
he is.
And I'm sure that we won't see anything like super strong, let's just say, but it still proves just how brutal his way of fighting is. Even if he is somewhat turning a new leaf, he's still going to use the same sort of tactics that he uses when it comes to fighting, at least based on
Right.
what we know from this scene.
Yeah. But this scene in the trailer is my favorite.
If you had spoken such insolence to Jabba, he'd have fed you to his menagerie.
Please. Speak freely.
And that's pretty much the last scene of the trailer, so we'll exit this out.
Mhm.
But I just love how he said that, especially after Fennec Shan just said what she did.
Mhm.
Basically saying, okay, come on, say what's on your mind if you're brave enough. And it just further drove home the fact that this is going to definitely be a gang warfare story,
Mhm.
and I am
Yeah.
all for that.
Yeah. Because I will say this, we've already gotten a little bit of organized crime within some parts of the Clone Wars, as well as pretty much the entire movie of Solo. But I
Yes,
always thought that this sort of mafia, a part of Star Wars, was just so interesting that I'm actually pretty excited that we might be able to see that.
me too. Well, that is the trailer, and this series comes out, of course, December 29th. And when it does, Michael and I, of course, will be here covering it episode by episode, so stay tuned for that. And is there anything else you want to say about this trailer, Michael, before we end this video?
I can't think of anything. I think we pretty much got our thoughts together.
Yeah, so overall, I like it, and we'll see what happens when it comes out. So thanks everyone for watching this video. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And just remember, guys, the Force is family. See you guys later.